The views and opinions expressed in the following podcast do not necessarily reflect those of the producers, the affiliates, or digital platforms hosting this podcast. All content is for the purposes of education, conjecture, and at times entertainment. We promote inclusiveness and diversity. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Into the Deep with Jay Costa.
Welcome to Into the Deep. I'm Jay Costa. I am ecstatic about today's guest. He's a co-founder of the Eastern Connecticut Paranormal Society. Today's guest is Chris O'Connor. He's been a gifted medium for as long as he can remember, and as a child, he was understandably confused on what was happening to him. So over time, he was able to overcome his fears and gained confidence in his abilities with his mother's knowledge and guidance of being a medium. His gift has become stronger throughout his adult years, and back in 2017, Chris was even able to assist a Florida family in the case of their missing son. Though he doesn't like to refer to himself as a medium or a psychic, but rather as someone who is spiritually gifted, Chris doesn't like to rely on his spiritual gifts. He uses them with the help of technology, logic, reason, and deduction when performing these paranormal investigations. We talk about so much in this episode. We talk about spirited and haunted homes, EVPs, and more. Be sure to check out this episode, as this is going to be the first episode where, we're going to give you about an hour of this conversation. But the second half of this 2+ hour exchange is going to be available through our Patreon. So join me as we seek light and journey into the deep with Chris O'Connor. Enjoy. Chris, thank you so much for doing this with me today, man.
No problem. Anytime. I love doing podcasts. I love talking about paranormal. I hope you have a few hours or a couple shows.
Right on. Let's do a couple shows. I love that. That's great. And I love talking paranormal as well. So for our listeners and our viewers, would you mind sharing who you are and what it is you do, my friend?
I'm Chris O'Connor. I am a co-founder of Eastern Connecticut Paranormal Society, based out of all over Connecticut, I guess, all over New England. We travel.
Right on. How long have you been doing this?
Okay.
Yeah, no, how long have you been at this, my friend?
As far as the paranormal team, that we've been together since officially formed February of 2016. My co-founder and I met each other at a very famous place in Connecticut. Very well-known spiritual, haunted, demonic home on Halloween of 2015. So by chance, I'm an hour from there, and he's an hour from there, and we ended up meeting there, and connection ever since.
That's awesome, man. Pardon the pun, but kindred spirits, I would surmise.
I would definitely say that we have an incredible amount of similarities. Right down to the point where my name is Christopher David. His mother almost named him David Christopher. And it's like, he's a middle child, I'm a middle child. We share a lot of the same views on life. We'll leave it at that. We have the same science background.
Oh, wow.
Or similar science background. And it was meant to be. I'm a gifted psychic medium. I have been my entire life. And David discovered, he knew there was something going on in his life, but it was until when he met me, like, I hear static. When he met me, I was able to bring it out. So our processes of finding evidence psychically verified scientifically works we connected. I mean, and I'm 25 years older than him.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's just such a wonderful feeling when you meet somebody that you just work so well with, and it's just like it clicks. And for whatever reason, it takes our life path to finally intersect with this individual, whether it's this lifetime or another lifetime, and you just know it when you know it.
Yeah, I mean, we laugh about the same things. I mean, it's, I don't want to say it's like a bromance or anything like that. It's just, we're good. We work well together. We're good problem solvers. We get to the bottom of almost every case that we've been on. And I can honestly say the cases that we don't get to the bottom of is because of the client. They haven't trusted our process.
I love that you say that. So could you, if you wouldn't mind, walk us through the process, right? Like, obviously you care about, getting down to the brass tacks of things, right? And you're using deduction, and you want to get down to the truth. That's the impression that I get from.
That's actually our mission statement right there in a nutshell, is to find the truth by any means. Now, most paranormal cases can be debunked for various reasons. I use this for example. One of our first cases in Western Connecticut was, one of their claims was they had knocking on the wall, and it was creating a paranormal environment. So my day job, I'm a general contractor. So I use that skill. I walked around the house and then looked around and see what could it be. Could it be the plumbing? Could it be anything? So we did a tour around the outside of the house, and I discovered a tree very close to the house. And I said, David, go into the house and see if this is what you hear. And I banged the branch on the house. And yeah, it sounds like knocking on the wall. I cut the branch. Your paranormal activity is over. Right. Most of the time it's that simple. David was on he was doing preliminaries for a case where the client was seeing apparitions, and it turned out that he asked, where is your electrical panel? Well, it's in the basement. And where is it in the basement? And they thought about it, and it goes, I guess it would be located right under our bed. We said, David said, move your bed. High EMF can cause hallucinations. It's a scientific fact. So before we say you're seeing apparitions, let's see what else is going on. They moved their bed. The paranormal activity went away. So they were affected by high EMF. So we actually talked to them more about that. So it's something that not everybody is affected by high EMF, but this couple happened to be. So we counsel them on avoiding high EMF areas. If you're picnicking under power lines, you start seeing, spirits, then move, it's the power lines. And if you still see them, then we'll keep going. We have a very firm belief that we won't overstep a medical issue to say it's paranormal. We've had cases where after interviewing them and seeing their behavior, identify that they definitely are going through or in the middle of or beginning to have a psychosis of some sort. So my medical training, although I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I've been trained to identify triggers or flags, and then I would refer those people. In same instance, I'm like, okay, this woman clearly has a psychological issue. It was her paranormal activity started after she literally ran into her attacker from when she was a teenager. He was released from jail, and then the paranormal activity started up again. So, but with her, it was a challenge because she rather have it been paranormal versus seeking out medical attention because couldn't be crazy, or she could. Not that she was crazy, is that this trauma created a paranormal environment. I do a lot of that, a lot of counseling. One of my responsibilities on the team is spiritual counseling, and it's not so much religious counseling, although that comes in too, but spiritual counseling. I've dealt with 3-year-olds up to 90-year-olds going through a paranormal situation, but it's been brought on by trauma. Have you heard the term psychokinesis?
Yes.
Okay, psychokinesis is real. I mean, they've been doing hundreds of years, or at least 100 years of studies. And it's a real thing and it used to start off in just prepubescent or pubescent females, but at the time of the beginning of the study, only women can be hysterical. Men couldn't be hysterical. So that's since changed. So it happens to anyone. It can happen to any sex, any gender, any age. It's not just primarily to prepubescent or pubescent children. I'm counseling a woman now. She's in her 40s, but she's she had gone through some trauma, and PTSD plays into this. And PTSD obviously is not just for the military, it's for any type of trauma.
Yeah.
So when it gets too bad, it's okay. I think it's time for you to go speak with a psychologist, a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
You might need to be on medication. I'm not a big fan of medication, but if it's needed or warranted, it's warranted.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, if you don't mind sharing,
I don't mind sharing most things.
Oh, awesome. Well, what got you on this trajectory? I know you said earlier that you experienced some things at a younger age. So would you mind sharing some of those?
Oh, I've been like I said, I used to call myself gifted or intuitive, because I hated the term medium because it's so overused, but it confused many people. And then if I say psychic, that means another thing. And so I put the three together: gifted, psychic, medium. And I added gifted because there has been a run. It's almost like the flavor of the month thing of going to a class and learning how to become psychic. And I have trouble with that. That whole understanding. I picture somebody waking up in the morning and saying, "Hey, I want to become a psychic today, so I'm going to look for a course online and become a psychic." I don't begrudge those people for doing that. I believe that ones that are successful have already been a psychic. The others are just trained to read body language, interpret responses, call out a number. Oh, what does the number 5 mean to you? Well, the number 5 can mean something to somebody almost all the time. But those that are successful certified mediums or certified psychics probably always had the gift. It goes along to there are people who can sit down and play the piano beautifully without a lesson. And then those are those who have to be taught how to play well. And that's how I compare, it's a gift. This is a gift from God, and that's how I see it. I'm very Christian. I believe in God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I use that to my benefit. I don't charge for readings because I see that as a gift. This is something God gave me to use for humanity. So my earliest memory of being psychic, I would say I would have to have been three or 4 years old. I saw a Native American spirit. I saw a laborer or construction worker. And I would talk to my mom about it, and she was also gifted. So she was able to counsel me through my years. I I wasn't allowed to promote it while I was a teenager. It was something that stayed in the family, because when I was growing up in the Christian church, it wasn't looked highly upon. And to avoid any kind of family embarrassment, we just kept it in the house. In fact, many of my brothers and sisters didn't know that I had this. It was more or less a secret between my mom and I.
How cool.
It was. And I did my first profile when I was 16. Wow. And I just recently did one in 2017 for the Bureau, for a family in Georgia. And it assisted the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Wow. And now I use it. I use it to help. I'll stop it there. I use it to help people either communicate with a loved one or paranormal teams identifying spirits that are interacting with the home. As my team like to laugh about it, I'm their biggest tool. And so that's how I work. I have the ability to see auras and identify them. And when it comes to cases, it's helpful because I can see how the client is interpreting or responding to the spiritual activity that's going on in their house. And also see if there's any kind of muckiness or graying in particular areas that also could create a paranormal environment.
Okay.
So that's helpful there. I have the ability to automatic rate and automatic draw. And I get my messages that way. My team gets very impressed when I draw out I don't want to say near perfect. It's certainly not a Picasso or it's actually probably closer to Picasso than anyone. But I'm drawing out these images in the dark, completely in the dark.
Wow.
When I get the messages, it's almost like my spirits guide are holding a flashlight over my pad so I can see it and see what I'm drawing. It's pretty amazing. And I give thanks to my maker for giving me these wonderful gifts.
I love that. That's so awesome. And I love the fact that you see it as a gift. That's
most of the time it's a gift.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would say then, if we can, thinking about this, that double edge to it, right? That blessing and a burden, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Because I'll be doing a presentation. They'll say, gee, I wish I had a gift. I said, what would you wish for? It's sometimes it's insane. Sometimes I think I'm going insane. There's times when I'm like, all right, enough is enough. I need to shut it off. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have children, but sometimes it's like that 4-year-old child going, daddy, 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 tugging at your pant or your shirt tail, daddy, 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 until you give them the attention you want. They want. It's can be that annoying. And I never wished it away. I just know how to manage it and then say, hey, the close sign is on. You need me to come talk to me tomorrow. And it's just a way, or talk to me later. And it's usually about 5 minutes and then I'm okay. And then I talk to going through a grocery store, going through a concert. It's very crowded, if you will.
How do you put that proverbial close sign up? What are some things that you do?
It's more or less a visualization of a switch, cutting the switch off. It's and I'm closed. There are times they still get through, and those are the ones that are really needing my attention. Going back to the child analogy, they are still tugging at my shirt tail, and they don't care that the light is off or the open sign has been turned to closed. And then it's okay. Give me 5 minutes, and I will. I'll deal with. I'll help you out. But for the most part, they listen. And it's crazy when I'm trying to do readings or doing a session. The open sign is on, and others will try to come in.
Oh,
and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm working with her right now.
mhm.
I will deal with you later. And it's really setting up boundaries, setting up rules, just like, when a therapist is in, other patients can come in, right? It's basically kind of the same thing.
And I love the point that you bring up too, just this courtesy, this kindness. I feel like that kind of energy is probably well received rather than something that's a little bit more abrasive.
It is. I attempt to be kind, because particularly with the people that are going through a crisis, but then there's times when I have to play the father card, if you will. No, you have to do it this way, or I have to walk away.
Mhm.
And it's those that aren't following the process, or I give them valid suggestions, and they may try it, but not believe that it's going. They'll try it without and not giving it their full intent, and it won't work. So they want something else. Well, no, I asked you to do it this way, and you didn't do it that way. So first, try to do it this way, and then after a while, when there's just those that want help but don't want it, so you gotta walk away, or you're just gonna go kind of bonkers.
Yeah.
Or your family is gonna start going crazy.
Yeah.
Because I get calls and texts all times of the day.
Wow.
And my wife is a third shifter, so when she's home, hey, you got a text. She'll wake me up 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning. You got a text. And I'm like, all right. It's like I'm always on call.
Wow.
But I try to be kind, and I try to give my best to these people, particularly the young ones, the children. They're usually are in families that didn't have a support system like I did.
Mhm.
So I try to be their support system. And, for the most part, I'm pretty successful with getting them where they need to be.
Right on.
I don't want to boast, but that's
No, that's great.
when you listen, just like anyone, when you listen to a plan intently
Mhm.
and wholeheartedly, there's usually success.
Yeah. It's hard for folks to sometimes stick to the plan. We're all guilty of that.
Well, a lot of them think they have their answers. They have the answers before they ask me the question.
Great segue, because I was just thinking, like, how often is it that somebody already thinks the outcome is what it is, and so they're looking for the evidence to backfill that story?
Well, that works that fits two scenarios. In the psychic reading world, and the paranormal side, you have to follow the evidence. Now, if somebody comes to me and says, they come in with the intent, well, no, it's got to be my dad. It's got to be my dad. And I'm clearly saying, no, it's not your father. It's this person. No, why would that person come to me? He has no reason to come to me. Well, he does. This is the reason. And same thing within the paranormal field. The client will say, I have demons. And then if a paranormal team went out there with a mindset, okay, they have demons, not proving they have demons. So you have to follow the evidence. Now, my psychic evidence would be, okay, who's standing for me? Who's giving me the message?
Right.
When I say he's clearly saying his name is John, and he looks like this, can't be. Well, who else could it be? You're confirming, yet that sounds like John, it looks like John, and his name is John, but it can't be him. Well, then, so you must have a spirit deceiving you. Well, I've been doing this for I'm just turned 57, in fact, and I've been doing this a while, so I'm pretty sure when I'm being I mean, every now and then one gets by me, but I'm pretty sure I can get a deception. And the same thing with the paranormal field. You have to follow the evidence. If they say they're having demons, and you find no evidence of demons, either psychically and scientific, through evidence collection, then it's our job as the paranormal team to disprove that theory and show them what it actually is. And believe it or not, there are people that know it's still a demon. It's a demon. They'd rather have a demonic attachment or involvement than no. It's just Aunt Mary. She was pissed off one night, and this is what happened.
Right. Yeah.
Now she's not. No, it's a demon. Okay.
If you insist.
Yeah. You keep it up, it's going to be a demon.
Yeah. I know recently you had done, well, I say recently, but within the past several months, you had done some investigative research at the Wyndham Inn. Is that correct?
Awesome place.
Oh gosh, do you care to elaborate?
Sure. I like to tell the story how I got in. I was actually on my way to a paranormal case, and I've passed this place several times. I know very little about it, although I grew up 2 towns over. I knew very little about the inn and the history behind it. But when I would drive, I would see spirits around the building, in the building, but from all different eras, from when it was built, from 1800s, 1900s, different spirits. So I'm like, gosh, I'd like to get in there just to validate what I see. And one night I was driving by and I saw a sign, help support the Wyndham Inn Preservation Group. Basically, they're looking to raise money to preserve and restore the inn. It's actually condemned, and they're trying to raise money to, bring it back to its glory. So I said, here is my inn. This is how I do it. I contacted the president of the board and I say, hey, I'd like to present this opportunity to you. I would love my team and I to come in there and investigate the inn. And then when we're done, we will come back with the evidence, all the evidence that we found, do a review, but in a presentation form. And then you guys can charge admission to the presentation. We do our investigations for free. We don't charge for investigations. You guys can charge whatever you want per ticket. And we ask for like $1 a head. That's all we ask for the presentations, because we do have administration costs. But as far as the investigation goes, any investigation, we don't charge. They said that sounded like a great idea. We did a daytime walkthrough first week in November, because there's no utilities, no facilities, nothing in this building. It's completely dead, if you will. No running water, no electricity, no telephone, no. So we did a walkthrough. I did a walkthrough more for 2 reasons. One, to see what I get, see if something comes. And let me tell you, things came, or people came. And also put my general contracting on, make sure it's safe. We want to make sure that it was, it's a condemned building. You don't want to be walking through a room and fall through a floor.
Right.
So we did the walkthrough during the daytime, and then a week later we did the investigation, and it did not disappoint. We captured 2 apparitions, one on film and one on video.
Wow.
Captured hours of audio evidence, and it wasn't just bumps or groans. It was, is this you, Elizabeth? Yes. That's an example. Did you die in this building? No. Did you die on the land? Yes. And then even EVPs, most of those were through a spirit box. And you know what a spirit box is?
Yes, I've heard them referred to. Yes.
Okay. So
for those listening, please elaborate.
Yeah, it's a basically it's a device that does a radio sweep very quickly through FM stations, and it creates this white noise energy. And the theory behind it is that spirits can tap into that energy and speak through the spirit box. And it's where now that I've been doing it for so long, I can hear different voices. Before it would be, okay, male voice said this and female voice said that, child voice said this. Now I can identify different voices. Okay, this has a different tone, and he's answering this one. I mean, and even in one case, not the Wyndham Inn, but in another case, we asked who was there, and he said, "This is Kurt," and Kurt is the one who committed suicide in the house. And it was like, okay, we're speaking to Kurt.
Right.
There's not. I mean, that's beyond coincidence. So back to the Wyndham Inn, we captured a lot of responses through Spirit Box and a lot of responses through, or several EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. That's when there is no Spirit Box. You ask a question and you get a response. You don't hear it at the time, but when you go back and listen to it, you hear the response. And in the basement is when we got the two prominent what they call Class A EVPs. It was in my vision, there were a group of, I'm not sure if they were African American or they were just so dark and dirty, and they were dressed in rags and such. I wanted to lean away from African Americans just for the fact that I didn't want to jump down that I just lost Underground Railroad. I didn't want to go down that path yet, but the walkthrough, there was just maybe 3 spirits huddled in a corner. When we went back for their actual investigation, there was more, and there was a mother figure. And psychically, I'm asking, can I help you? I mean, can I show you where to go? I mean, you don't need to stay here in the basement. You can move. You can go out. You don't have to stay here. And our EVP was help my children. I'm like, wow. And then later on, there was a response to a question. I don't remember the question, but the response was, please. And it was the same woman's voice. So that's pretty powerful. So we are doing a repeat investigation, and that's going to be one of the areas that I focus on. And we'll have another presentation. It was a huge success. They sold out in 3 days.
Wow.
They actually sold out in 2 days and added 25 seats. And then those 25 seats sold right away within the day. And it was, people are there. Well, one, they're interested in the paranormal, and 2, they were interested in the Wyndham Inn.
Yeah.
Awesome place. And I was so excited to go in to get a lot of validation, and which I did. We captured it. Like I said, I captured a ton of that. Okay. I can actually send you some if you wanted to include them in the podcast.
Sure.
All right. So I can send you some of the clearer, the storyline behind the main story is Elizabeth Shaw. Mm-hmm. There's a conflict in the story because her story happened in 1840, 42 or something like that. But the inn wasn't built until 1783. She died in 1742 or something.
Okay.
But so there's, again, more research that has to be done. And I have my theory into why Elizabeth is there now. But the story behind Elizabeth Shaw is that he became pregnant and unwed. So in 1740s, that's a no-no.
Right.
And actually, there's rumor of this, but there's no, documented proof who the father is. But I was shown that her father did it. Her father impregnated her.
Gotcha.
So, and the storyline I got from Elizabeth was that she was shameful. She killed her baby. She went away. She went into the woods to have her baby. She hid her pregnancy, went into the woods, had her baby, left it there.
Wow.
They found out and tried her very quickly without proper jury. And she was hung, half a mile from the inn. And the story is that there are people that see this white lady mist walking by the inn. So they believe that she's attached to the inn. I think she ended up in the inn because somebody asked her to come forward because the inn used to be a tavern, then it went into an inn. And then at the end of World War II, there was a housing shortage. So the current owners transformed it into apartments.
Okay.
So I think at that time frame, I think somebody maybe did a Ouija board or did a conjuring of sort, asked for Elizabeth to come in. So it brought her energy into the building, and then just its story just manifested. That's one theory. That's my theory. The other theory is that there was another building on the property where the inn sits prior to 1843 or 1883. It's 1783. I'm sorry, I keep saying that wrong. But 1783. There was a building prior to that. And that's the association with Elizabeth Shaw. So she was our main character of the investigation. And we got responses like Beth. I believe it was me. I asked Elizabeth, "Why are you here?" And Spirit Box response is, "I killed." And then we have other responses throughout history. I guess we have asked, "How did you die?" And then not necessarily directly to Elizabeth, but the spirit that was there at the time. A male came forward and said, "Blast." So it could easily have been a spirit from one of the wars. I mean, we've had a few of them in our time frame.
Right.
There's 2 centuries of almost 2.5 centuries of spirits that are stuck to the inn. So it was really cool to get information from.
I'd say. And you said you got some apparitions captured. Wow.
And again, to get photo or video evidence of an apparition is extremely rare. I'm going to point that out. Extremely, extremely rare. It's only happened to us once or twice in the 6 years that we've been together. If you go to our Facebook page and look up Lillian Rose, you'll see a fantastic video of an apparition of Lillian Rose as a little girl. And again, we were in a spot where we thought the case was boring. Nothing was happening. And then when we went back and looked at evidence, Lillian Rose shows up. It was pretty remarkable. But there's photographic evidence of someone standing in a window. And it's not there's no face, it's a shadow. There's no facial. And at first I thought, well, maybe it's peeling paint and it's showing in a shape of a body.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, so when we did go back before the presentation to do some debunking, and I went into that room and there's no signs of peeling paint. There's no light source because there's no electricity. It was during daytime, so that was our, one light source. It was none of our team members because we knew where everybody was. There were 4 of us there at the time. I was with one. Eli, another member, he was actually with the president, the board, at her house at that point. And then David, the co-founder, he was walking around doing a video shot. This picture's on the 2nd floor. So nobody was in the building. We can confirm that. So then I said, well, maybe it's the paint. Go up there, walls clean. I'm like, we try to reproduce the photo, but reproduce the photo. So Eastern Connecticut, we never go on record for saying something is 100% apparition. We would say that this is high probability that we captured the shadow of an apparition. There's always those doubts. There's always, with the paranormal, there's no way to do 100% proof. Although Lillian Rose is pretty darn close. And the other apparition that we caught was on video. And it started off as we thought, well, it was maybe a light anomaly. And then through a lot of, manipulating of the film, you could see it a little bit different. You see a light anomaly come forward, but behind it, you see the shape of the person.
Okay.
And we thought it's a busy intersection, maybe light came through a window. All the lower windows where the light was found or noticed are all blocked off with plywood. So the likelihood of light coming through the glass is gone. Not going to happen because then we said, well, maybe it was a flashlight. It's dark. We're using flashlight. So we recount the space and where we were. And in the video, you hear us this is apartment 2, where you can hear us in the kitchen, which is 2 rooms behind where the light was seen. And there's several walls for that light. And the last thing, 6 hours of footage, it only happened one time.
Wow.
So it's all those things kind of add up. Plus with the vision that I had earlier was of what I call her the barmaid, or I'm not sure exactly what her title was, but she fit in that kind of role.
Okay.
She came in and I said, go ahead, touch David. And psychically, I don't say it aloud. I said, go ahead, touch David. And David allows it. You go ahead and touch him. As soon as I said, touch him, he jumps and turns around and like, what was that? And so that's who we believe is showing up in that room. The room that we were in during the time of the inn would have been the common room. It wouldn't have, because it had a very large fireplace, so it probably would have been like a parlor or something like that. So it would be uncommon for her to go in there and on gas or so on.
Right.
So all these little things add up to the big thing. And so we pretty much say we captured photographic and video of an apparition. And it's awesome because most of the time we're looking at this stuff at 10, 11, 12 at night, and it comes up on your screen and you're like, your face gets like 2 inches from the screen. What did I just see? And then you try to, rewind to get to that spot again. It's pretty crazy. Same thing with EVPs. It's 2:00 in the morning because it's the only time you can find time to listen, and you get this devilish get out, and you like throw your headphones across the room. That didn't happen with the Wyndham Inn. The Wyndham Inn was what we would say would be malevolent. It was just Eastern Connecticut. We categorize ghost visitations, either we call them spirited homes or haunted homes. Spirited homes is friendly, they don't hurt you. Haunted home has more of a negative sound to it, so we leave those for the malevolent case. You have a haunted home.
Gotcha.
But the end is spirited, quite spirited. I'm so passionate and so excited. It was such a great investigation, and that's our goal for 2022 is to get into historical places versus not just residential. We love doing residential, but we also like doing historical places, like the Wyndham Inn. If the curator of the Nathan Hale home is listening, answer your email. I emailed you twice. Just my own little plug.
I love that. Yes, please do. If anyone's listening, you've got some ins. No pun intended, but you've got some ins. Let's get some investigating going on.
And we use the same. I'll use the same thing. We get into these historical places and we do the presentation, and they can raise money for their cause.
Right.
And our next one with the Wyndham Inn, we suggested that they would seek out a larger venue and charge a little bit more money. They're going to they can do a lot better. I mean, they sold 100 tickets.
Wow.
But it's like, our page blew up. I can't buy any tickets. I can't buy the tickets. I can't buy the tickets because they're all sold out. They're sold out already. They just went they just went up for sale. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think they'd go that fast either. But so, Eastern Connecticut's right around the corner, and I'd like to see them go in there. That Coliseum or the theater can hold quite a few people.
Right on. And how, I mean, gosh, the amount of patience you have to sort through the footage, the recordings. I mean, I don't think people realize the amount of time and energy it takes to just comb through the evidence, or before you find the evidence. Yeah.
Most don't. We do a presentation. It's titled Investigating the Unknown. It's basically Paranormal 101. Go through our process and the amount of time that goes into an investigation. Now, we were at the Wyndham Inn. We had cameras run from 8 to 12:30. So 4.5 hours of video footage of watching dust fly.
Right.
And it's painful. I mean, if it gets a little bit more exciting if we're in the room with the camera,
right?
Something else to watch. But you have to watch every second of every piece of the film, because otherwise you're going to miss it. You're going to miss something. And like I said, it's very rare that you capture video evidence. So you kind of want to, it's like, I'm not going to capture anything, and then you do. Like, oh, now I need to listen. Now I need to really watch. But we do that we are diligent. We watch from 000 all the way up. They upload in 45-minute slots.
Wow.
Watch every second of it. Sometimes we capture voice phenomena through the DVR camera. But most of the time you're sitting there watching dust fly.
Yeah.
Audio evidence is a little bit better, particularly if you have spirit box activity. You're actually listening to words. But if you're doing like a 30-minute EVP session, it's terrible because catching EVP is very rare. Mm-hmm. And it is. There's count. I mean, you think about it, okay, if you do a 4-hour investigation, we only did 4 because it got cold. We did this investigation in the middle of November. Wow. and it just got cold. And when you get cold, you can't concentrate. So we left it around 12:30. But excuse me, most of the time it's 6 to 8 hours of sitting in front of a screen, watching dust fly.
Right.
And it's incredibly, it's, and it's not always that exciting during an investigation either. You're sitting in the dark and you're speaking out to darkness, and you hope you get a response. And again, when you're doing spirit box session, it's a little bit more exciting because you're actually getting interaction. For sometimes you're getting interaction. But to really do a good investigation, you have to, pursue every avenue and find trigger objects. Trigger objects are helpful. The client says, the toys come on by themselves. So we're going to do that. We're going to try to be in that room where the toys come on by themselves, or we'll bring a toy that has the ability to come on by itself. The infamous ball rolling down the stairs. We'll try that. It's never happened. We've never been successful with that because I think some of my, or maybe not. So I think a few of us would probably need to go change their clothes after. That's saying it politely. There are times when each one of us on the team has been so scared, like, okay, I've had enough of this being scared tonight. I'm done. So again, this presentation that we do, we go through all of these steps. And there's hours even before we get to the house of research, researching the property, researching the homeowners throughout the time, researching the geographical area. Are there, is there water? Could water be cause of the paranormal, or are they sitting on a bedrock of quartz? We go through. This is how in depth we go. We look at homes in the area. Has there been any incidents of violent deaths or deaths of the area? There's a few hours prior to an investigation.
Right.
Eli's our research analyst, and he gets down to the nitty gritty. He's actually a journalist.
Oh,
so he has a degree in journalism. He's a communication professor. But he digs, and so there's a couple hours even before we even get to the house, and then we're at the house. Typically, average of 6 hours. In some cases, like for me, I live Eastern Connecticut. I live almost in Rhode Island.
Okay. And
the last month or two, we've had cases in the other side of Connecticut.
Oh.
We just looked. The one in Greenwich that's a 2.5 hour ride for me.
Yeah.
So they been up since. I'm leaving the house at 2:00 in the morning, and I'm not home. Then I have to drive 2.5 hours. It's, that's another thing people don't realize.
Right.
We're in the process of interviewing candidates, or we've interviewed them. We're bringing them on cases, and we're going through. Listen, if we bring you on, you are expected to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours on different cases. And then there's times when, like the Wyndham Inn, I drove 10 minutes. It was awesome. Yeah. It's really strange the way the paranormal is bouncing around. 2021, we were primarily on the eastern side of the state. So far, 2022, it seems like Fairfield County is blowing up. No idea. And that's kind of how it goes. Every now and then we have a shoreline case, not very often. Almost never in Northwest Connecticut. I don't know why. Now we're going to get 5 of them.
Yeah, right. Because you said it.
Yeah. Well, I have that talent too of willing things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's not. But yeah, so we're all over the state. New York, we've gone to Hudson, Rhode Island, and we've gone to parts of Rhode Island, parts of Massachusetts. We all go into New England. We've been asked to go to Texas, Ohio.
Oh wow.
There's one now they want us to come to Queens, New York. We're not going just because I have no ambition to go to Queens, New York.
Gotcha.
And it's a 3-hour ride, and usually we don't miss it by any means. But if it's more than a 3-hour ride, we ask, hey, can you put us up for the night? Because it's a 3-hour ride back after being investigating.
Right.
And most are they don't mind doing it. But it's this client probably couldn't do it, and this is going back to the research. Eli does the research in the area, and we're like, well, crime rate's up 50% in that area. I don't think we need to go. And he's right. There's probably other people that can go there that live closer, are familiar with the area. Like we had to get out of Queens. I wouldn't know which way to go.
Gotcha.
So I don't think I could punch in GPS quick enough to get out of Queens. I'm not putting down Queens by any means, but this area was not in a particularly safe spot, and there's no reason for us to go into an unsafe spot.
Fair. No, totally get that. You don't want to jeopardize anybody's safety, so I get it.
Right. Particularly. And yeah.
Has there ever been a time where you've been in an investigation and you've encountered something that you felt as just like, you're saying earlier, where you're just maybe a little scared and you're like, well, that's it, I'm done.
Yep.
And there you have it. I loved my conversation with Chris. I can't thank Chris enough for all his time, his space, his energy. Be sure to check out the second half of this conversation through our Patreon. You can find out what Chris is up to at easternctparanormal.com. And you can find them on Instagram at easternctparanormal as well. We started this podcast to help our global community with just shining a light on different perspectives and to add value to individuals no matter where they are on life's journey. This is a fully genuine, from our heart project. We want to make this podcast the best version of itself, if that makes sense. You can find more information about our Patreon in the description below. And thanks for wanting to help us out. Who knows? There may be even more projects on the horizon. You can find us on Instagram at itd.jcosta, as well as on Twitter at itd_jcosta. And until next time, take care of one another and keep thinking for yourself.